it'll take 20 years for South Africa's world to become fully electric and for every car on the road to be fully electric. So I think we're looking at a 30-year timeline, to be quite frank.
With you, good to have you back in what is the Volvo XC40. It's been a wonderful couple of hours with myself, Tebs, our camera person, also Scurra, our producer, also camera person at the moment, driving around Midrand. Is this the future of motoring in South Africa? I heard you ask. Yes, it absolutely is. The question, however, as I keep asking, is when is that future going to get here? This is still very rare to be able to drive a full electric vehicle like this. But you're quite right, Mfondo. I do have the AutoTrader CEO, George Mienie, back with us again on eNCA. I say again because George was actually my guest on eNCA Drive a few weeks ago. And George, morning to you. I really appreciate your time joining us again. And last time you and I spoke, we were in your Jaguar I-Pace, and I think you're in your car now. I'm in the Volvo. Do you get the sense now, after we've spoken, I'm now in an electric vehicle, people are still skeptical about these cars? I'm convinced, you're convinced. How does the rest of South Africa become convinced? Good morning.
Good morning, Gareth, and thanks for having me. I think the rest of South Africa, first of all, is coming around to hybrid and electric. The fuel price increases have helped, although we've had a fuel price decrease in the last couple of days. But South Africa is coming around. We're seeing search on AutoTrader's website double every single year for hybrids and electric. So the consumer is coming around. The trouble, as you pointed out a couple of minutes ago, is still price. The vehicles are way too expensive for consumers to really afford at scale.
It is, and I remember when you and I spoke on eNCA Drive as well, that's all going to change as well once we start seeing, I don't mean to be derogatory, but the less premium sort of brands like your Toyotas, arguably your Suzukis, your Fords, once they start moving into this segment, this could be the way to go. But what does that timeline in your mind look like, George, when we start seeing more accessible price-wise EVs in South Africa? What's your timeline, do you imagine?
So I don't think the timeline is incalculable, Gareth. It's definitely mathematical, and the maths is around the EU's deadlines, and those deadlines are anywhere between 2030 and 2035. Now, if you think about 7-8 million passenger vehicles in South Africa, we typically sell around 25,000 a month, call it 300,000 passenger vehicles into the market per year. When the deadline occurs, which is in 2030, say, and we're doing 300,000 vehicles per year, you can do the maths. It'll take 20 years for South Africa's world to become fully electric and for every car on the road to be fully electric. So I think we're looking at a 30-year timeline, to be quite frank, and that curve steepens the later we leave an affordable electric vehicle out of the South African market.
Yeah, and that's what we need to talk about as well, as far as the future of EV vehicles. The problem, George, is not the cars. The technology is in the cars. The charging systems are great. The problem is, and I get the sense you'll agree with me, is our infrastructure. Yes, I had a quick charging station now, but that is still the exception. It's not the norm, is it?
No, it's not the norm. Although the charging infrastructure is gaining momentum, a company like Grid Cars, that leads the market at the moment in South Africa, has installed over 300 chargers in South Africa, and charge time, I think, is part of the problem. Also range anxiety. But when you do begin driving an electric vehicle every day of your life, like I do, you get to a point of range confidence, where at the moment, if I look at my electric car's battery percentage that I'm driving the I-Pace right now, I'm on 41%. I don't have any range anxiety at all because I know how this car is going to perform. I know where I'm going. I know how long it's going to take me to get there. So the charging infrastructure will build over time, but because I laid out the 30-year timeline, often people think about these things in binary terms. It's not going to happen as binary as we think it's going to happen.
And George, I'm going to say goodbye to you in just a couple of moments as well. And just your experience, because you bought that car, it's your personal vehicle. You used your own money to buy that Jaguar I-Pace you were in. Obviously, this is just a loan vehicle to me for a few days. Thanks to Volvo, by the way, for letting me drive around their car. They obviously trust me a lot more than my wife does when it comes to my driving. But your experience with the car you've had for the last year, is it difficult to live with? I'll tell you what I did last night. Not sure if you missed the story. We had load shedding at home while I had the car on charge. So I turned my DB board off so as not to get a surge on my appliances. Rookie mistake. I forgot to put the plug switches back on, and that's why I had a flat car this morning. It changes the way you think about driving your car. But just briefly, how's the experience been the last year or so with you in a full electric?
It's been absolutely life-changing, Gareth. You know, the experience of driving becomes exciting again. The car is quiet. It is incredibly fast. It's not the initially the speed, but it's just when you put your foot down, the power is there. It is a very simple piece of technology, although the software is complex. It's a simple vehicle with simple electric motors, and you can actually feel that it's better technology. So it's been really, really good in terms of driving. In terms of charging and living with the car, I haven't missed a beat. I haven't had an issue. Even when we went to stage 6 load shedding, I mean, I didn't switch off the switches on my DB board, but the car charges if you leave it plugged in once the electricity comes back on.
Yeah, absolutely. George, I'm going to say thank you so much, and you're right. I think that's what threw me off about a battery-powered car, electric vehicle, is how rapid this Volvo XC40 is. It's not the Jaguar I-Pace that you're driving, but this will do 0 to 100 in about 7 seconds, and without the engine noise, without the gears, it feels like it's never going to stop. George Mienie, AutoTrader CEO, thank you so very much for joining us this morning. He's in his Jaguar I-Pace. I'm in a full electric XC40. I've had fun driving in Mfondo. I'm actually just around the corner from Hyde Park back at the studios, and if it was my money, I don't have that money, but if it was my money, I would be buying a car like this. I can't afford it, that's the problem, but if I could, I definitely would, Mfondo.
No, but it's certainly worth it, and I like that both of you decided to coordinate and put on your shades, because I mean, if you're driving an electric car, you better put on your shades. Come on now. See you very soon, Gareth.